Hi there, welcome to Nonsense Whisky. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode, we've got something that I really wish I'd have bought a bottle of, but I didn't. My fault. I did go to Texas last year, and I bought 2 bottles while I was there. I thought I could have bought more, I suppose, but I didn't want to take the mick too much on bringing it back into the country. Technically, I'm only allowed to bring 1 back, but I brought 2 back in and wasn't stopped, so maybe could have got away with some more. Those bottles are the Old Forester 1920s pre-prohibition style, and I bought a bottle of the Eleanor from the Crowded Barrel, both of which I've reviewed, so you can go and check those out. But while I was in the shops over in Texas, I saw a lot of Balcones, and I was really tempted to pick up a bottle because it's really quite expensive over in the UK. It's something like £70 to £80 for their standard release bottles, the kind of classics range. So, it's a bit cheaper over there, and I probably could have save myself a few quid, but there you go, these things happen. Thankfully, a friend of mine went over to the States fairly recently and he brought me back 2 little Balcones samples, one of which I covered a couple of months ago. That was the 100% rye, and now we've got the Balcones Texas Single Malt Whisky, pot distilled. There you go. So I've covered now, this will be the 3rd one of the classics range. I did the Baby Blue and the 100% rye. I also covered a True Blue cask strength back in the day that you can go and check out somewhere around. Anyway, let's get into this and see what we've got. Now, the interesting thing about this is not a bourbon. Obviously, this is not a Scotch either. This is a Texas single malt. There's no corn in this, there's no rye in it. It's 100% malted barley. The difference that you will find between this and Scotch is that Scotch typically is aged in ex-bourbon barrels. That's not a rule. It's just because it's much cheaper to get an ex-bourbon barrel than it is to get a fresh oak barrel, because the bourbon industry, you must have new oak. And therefore, what do you do with your barrels? You sell them to anybody who will take them for as little as possible so you don't lose too much money. That's Scotland. There you go. So these guys have decided to age this in new oak, and let me tell you, you would not get a colour like that off an ex-bourbon barrel in Scotland. Fact. Not for a short amount of time anyway. You'd have to be aging that thing for years and years and years. So yeah, we can be pretty certain this is new oak. Of course, the climate in Texas, having been there myself, October, it was like 40 degrees Celsius when I walked off the plane. Way hotter than I'm used to experiencing over here in the UK. We get like max, like 38. So it's 2 degrees, but we're talking max. That's like once a year, middle of the day, tops, that's it. And then we're back down into winter. That's how our summer goes. Enough whittering on about this, let's get into the nose on this and see what we've really got in the glass, shall we? Whoa, now it's got a super rich nose. It's a 53%er, so do be careful with it. Not sure about the age of this thing either. I imagine it's not so old, but the oak influence and the high ABV should mask any youth. And I think that's probably true. There is some maltiness to it. I wouldn't have called this a youthful dram by any stretch. Very rich, very malty, very toffee-like. Hint of tobacco on the back end. You know what? If this was in a blind tasting, this would confuse the hell out of me because it doesn't smell like a Scotch. It doesn't smell like a bourbon. What the hell would it smell like in a blind lineup? Maybe one day I'll find out. Let's try on the palate. Now here we have the first kind of hint of that high ABV. Didn't really get it on the nose, but it comes through in spades now. It's definitely over 50%. You would easily pick that up on a blind, I think. But you're getting those kind of same notes coming through, but there's an undertone of kind of maltiness that's coming up to the surface. It's quite spicy, I think, as well, cinnamon. And on the back end, there's a bit of menthol, which is interesting. Now the finish, you're getting those kind of fruity elements coming through, but that's kind of disappearing off over the kind of medium length finish. And at the end, you're kind of left with almost a soury note of like oak and tannins. A little bit like a leathery. It's not a bad sour in any stretch. It just makes me want to reach for a bit more. Now, I've seen mixed reviews of this. It's been out for a couple of years. Personally, for me, absolutely stunning. love whiskey like this. You could call it craft distilling, I suppose. In comparison to some of the stuff that you get in Scotland, it certainly is. But for me, absolutely wonderful. Very, very expensive though. I won't really justify going out and buying a whole bottle of it in the UK. You are getting a lot for your money, I will admit, especially if you get yourself a 750ml bottle, 53%, plus this kind of craft element to it. It's unlike anything else I've tried recently anyway. So well worth trying, I would say, at least once, but it's probably a little bit too expensive to have around all the time. It's not my favourite of the range. That's probably going to have to go to something like the Brimstone or something like that, on the flip of a coin. Maybe even the True Blue. If you're talking about the classics range, the True Blue, the Corn is probably my favourite. But this is not far behind. Really enjoying this. Let me know what you think in the below, because I would like to know if you're on either side of that fence, because I do know it's a bit of a field divider. If you've got a bottle and you think it's worth it, vice versa, let me know. But yeah, for me, that's a complete winner. Really happy with that. So thanks to my buddy for bringing me the little wee sample of it. Do wish that I had a full bottle of this, and maybe next time I go to the States, if I ever get to go again, then I'll be picking up some Balcones while I'm there. I did the True Blue and then the 100%. Sorry, go back again. I did the...